I just want to show you a piece of equipment that I bought some time ago. I had been looking at it for a while and I thought that will come in handy, as you do. And it's one of these, a Wolfcraft, not sure what you call it really. It's a chop saw, but you use your grinderette or your 115, 125, no, roughly 4.5 inches and 5 inches cutting disc or grinding disc. This is a cutting disc, so what we've done is we've got an old grinding tool that I've had for some time. I gave it a clean up and I fitted a 1mm thick cutting disc. Now the thing with the cutting disc is, as I found out, much to my pain, was the fact that you need to get a thinner disc as possible that you think you can get away with and cut reliably, because all it's doing is it's removing metal. So the thicker the blade, the more metal you've got to remove, the longer it's going to take. So it almost gets to the point where you're going to be quicker with a hacksaw. Anyhow, I saw this and I thought that'll come in handy. Always a bit wary of the quality of these things, but I did feel the weight of the box and I thought maybe there's some cast parts in there and the bits are a fair weight, so if there's anything wrong with it, maybe we can work around that, which is in some extent what I've done. I mean, this is TUV. This means it's been checked for safety, compliance. So let's see what gives. Here is the machine itself. Now this isn't the machine as it comes as standard. What I've done is I've replaced a lot of the fasteners with stainless steel, where I can, stainless steel fasteners. I think they're all stainless as well. These adjusters here to adjust the tilt of the machine, they were okay, but what I did is rather than having a bare thread poking out this end and you can always catch your wrist on it, which is never a good thing, I've finished them off, cut them short and finished them off with donuts. And also this was I think I've remachined these actually. I think these might be stainless ones I've actually got in here, but we'll have a look in the box. So I've got the spare bits left. What did fit on here is there's a recess in there, but what I didn't want to do is have the big washer over there or try and fit this into the hole, because it didn't seem to work. Because on the inside we've already got a, I'm not sure if you can see that, we've already got one captive nut in there, so we'd have a conflict of interests in terms of fitting that together. So there's some brass bushes gone in here that actually fit in the hole as a nice fit, offers a platform for this washer. I've made 2 of those because that just seemed to be the better option, and as it was brass it was only 5 minutes on the lathe. And the same for these 2 mounts for the grinder itself. There we can see the 115 1mm thick blade. So that's I've used it already, which is why it probably looks a little bit tatty, and that's just worked really well. So I'm really quite pleased with that. On the vise as well, I've, rather than bolting down straight onto the metal only being an alloy of some description, it would end up getting marked and gouged by the fact that you tighten this up and you move it, you may have some slip. So I've got some nice brass fittings in there now to take up the gap, and what they'll do is actually add a degree of lubricity to the movement and protect this, because you find that if you end up cutting in one spot you'd end up with a wear pattern, and if you just wanted to move something slightly off axis it would always want to drop back into that hole. So what I've done is we've bushed that, and also on this upper surface, you can see on the original box, we've just got this rough cast finish, and it's painted black, which isn't the end of the world. But what we do have is we do have this vice slide on here. So when this went together, it was well, I'm going to use the word, it just wasn't really fit for purpose. But now we can scroll that in and out. This turns nicely, and there is no lift, because sometimes what you'll find is if you have a piece of bar, one of the jaws is fixed, which is the one that's bolted to the chassis. The other one will come in, it'll be floating, and it'll try and ride up or go around the work. And no matter how tight you try and drive this in, the work is never really held securely. So these two jaws are quite square now. Also underneath there was some more work. Just give that a wipe. So you can see what I've got here are the two sliders that replaced T-nuts, and what we've done is we've actually milled out a slot here, so we've still got the gate at the slot, and these two hold the parts central, these 3/4 square brass blocks. So if I move that up and down, you could probably see that the gap changing, and that is nice and secure now. So I am really pleased with the way that one came out. I always was a bit dubious, but you can see the base is quite solid, so that's where a lot of the weight was. Those were some of the improvements. One of the ones was down here as well, where this had a bevel on it, which wasn't great, because it wouldn't actually sit square against this surface. I mean, there may be other grinderettes that don't have that issue, but for mine I just took that off, and I gave it a skim so that it actually contacts this surface square on, and that's the idea, is to stop that from twisting under load. Again, on here we've got the slide on the back, so two Allen screws in there, so as this is machined now, we can just slide it backwards and forwards and set the angle, so when we bring the blade down, it's always going to cut or be easy to line up so that it actually cuts square. And I've used this already a few times, and I'm really pleased with the results that I got from it. It wasn't the most expensive piece of machinery I've ever bought, to be honest. Some things with it were a little bit disappointing. Oh yeah, one other thing I've done with this is a solid metal handle now with probably my best piece of knurling on it. So so there we are. I'll just show you some of the other bits. These were the screws that were fastening the vice assembly. Now, if I could probably just leave that one on there, you can see what that looks like. That's just not very good by any particular standard. So that was the driver for changing the parts on the vices. Some of the parts, I've had that before with just regular BZP type nuts and screws, that they're not finished to the best. Let's just have a look at the other bits that we've swapped. So those obviously had to go because they weren't fantastic. I'm not using the original guard that's on that was on the machine, because this is a plastic guard and I wasn't really keen on the fastening. Plus we've got a blade on here, and as we bring that down, the grinderette's going this way, so the sparks are going away, so we're covered with that. Just have a look at some of the bits that were replaced. These are the bushes that were plastic, but I've replaced in brass, so we can discount those. Here are some of the bolts, although these weren't particularly bad. They're not in the league of that for sure. Yeah, there's the other two screws that I've replaced. So I've made two of these out of stainless. Just some other general nuts and bolts that I wanted to replace with stainless, because I just tend to like that. Here's the handle. So see those two together. That's the existing plastic handle that came with it, and this is the knurled one that I've made to go with it. So to be honest, it's not really a review of the equipment as it is, but it does need some changes. But now I've got the changes in there, it is a welcome addition to the workshop.